Okay, welcome to instructional tips on manipulating data in Pega, part of the data modeling section. This section is about the data transform rule. Data transform rule is a simple assignment statement in other languages, but we build some more robust complexity or functionality around it because it's a rule, so it can do more things other than just assign a value. But that's all a data transform is. And we talk about the concept of this data transform chaining when I have a hierarchy of classes, which works exactly like a constructor works if there's a parent-child relationship of instantiating object and initializing properties at a certain time. So none of that changes. We just use different terms. So data transform. We talk a lot about this because from a business perspective, it's not clear, but from a programming technical perspective, very simple. It's an assignment statement. Keep it simple. It's an assignment statement. Allows you to assign a value, a source to a target. It's that simple. So I'll speed through this. Here's an example of a data transform statement where I have a definition, and within that data transform, I can do many things. Remember, it's much more robust than a single assignment statement in other languages. I have an action column. I can have conditional evaluations. My set is like a simple assignment. Here's my when, otherwise when. My update is like doing a bitwise copy. So this is saying for this particular data type, I want to initialize all of these fields to null. In other languages, you would have an object and an object. You want to assign an object to that other object of like type. That's exactly what this update of page is, like a bitwise copy. And this concept of call superclass data transform is the constructor that does the initialization for the parent. And that's set by default, like in other old languages. In Pega, we have all of these actions. Remember, I said it's more than a simple assignment statement. I can set a value, which is the simple assignment. I can remove, I can update an entire page. That is a bitwise copy in other languages. I can apply data transform, which means I can call another data transform, like a method calling a method calling a method. I can do sorting, write comments. I can have conditional statements to do when, otherwise. I can append to, I can append and map, and I can iterate over a collection by using the for each to make that happen. Exit out of it, like I do a break, or I can exit out of the data transform totally. We have out of the box data transforms every time you create a case type and you create a minimal of one user form, it will automatically, notice the term I use, automatically, it's the Pega magic, create PY default to help you establish a place to do initialization. Just like on other languages, when you instantiate an object, it does allocation based upon the size of its attributes, and then the constructor does the initialization. Here in Pega, when an object is instantiated and there's at least one user form that's been created, then it will create during your development time a PY default to give you a place to do the initialization that's similar to a constructor. PY default we'll call PY set fields default as the first one. If you're setting any user properties, set it in PY set field default. If you're modifying any system properties, then set it in PY default. That's the rule of thumb. If you're modifying PY system properties, remember PX, PY, PZ, you're modifying PY properties, set them in PY default. If you're modifying your own data types initially, when a class is initialized or instantiated, then you want to set it in PY set fields default. So my use case is I want to use my data transform for initialization, data manipulation, override property values between subclasses and superclassing, and if I want to populate a property with another value. And I do that through my data transform as an action, a target, and a relationship, and a source. Now, data transforms exist in almost all of our steps or in our flow shapes. So you'll see on any flow shape, I should say on all of our flow shapes, on all of our flow shapes, you always have the ability to set a data transform. Setting a data transform, fairly simple. In your data model, I better go here. Here's my PY default. If I needed to set like this PX urgency, I can set it any system properties. And this is really not a good thing to do. This violates our best practices. Remember I said PX and PZ are read only? PX is semi-read only. I can actually change the value, but you shouldn't. But that's a system property. You do it in PY defaults. In PY set defaults, let me open that one. I can open it here, or I can open it here. Here I'm setting any fields associated with my data model that I've created. Here's services, right? So I've actually set that, and I've set a label to no. These are all of my actions that I can do. I wanted to do an additional. This is everything I can do now. I can set a value, hit my dot, and it's going to show my current context right here. Example field, I set it to a value. I add something more complex, or if I wanted to look higher up in my hierarchy, remember here's my current context. I take my, this is pattern inheritance. So if I take my ending suffix off, my remaining prefix is my parent, and this is what's in my parent. I can go higher and go all the way to my directed inheritance to my work cover and use anything there. Up to work, use anything here, and I get to at base class eventually. Wow, look at all of these properties that are already built into our architecture. This is the wall effect. You get your students to say, wow, you have all of that. I guess there's nothing in at base class. So that gives you an example of how to go and set that. I'm not going to save it. PY default, PY set default is where we can initialize an object when it's being created. I just walked through that information. This concept of superclassing for data transform. So we don't have the concept of a constructor. We have the concept of data transforms PY default. Think of PY default as the constructor. And so, like any other language, if I have a parent that has a child that has a child, the construction for an object at runtime says what? Before an object, before a child can exist, the parent must exist. Before a child can exist, a parent must exist. So I create the parent here and set its values, and then I create the parent here and set its values, and I create the child here. Should have been the child here, set its values, and create the child, set its values. So that's how it gets set. This is actually at the bottom. This is incorrect the way this is actually written. So R actually is set, goes all the way up here, and then it comes here, and then it comes down to the bottom. So don't let this confuse you because this happens at rental. Remember that says rental claim here. It happens down here. The skills you learn from this section is how to create a data transform, manipulate properties, use PY default, PY set, fields default, similar to constructors when we come to superclassing. And that ends this section.